Greetings from Bali. I've noticed this past month a lot of what's risen has been anxiety and fear, both in the collective field. I mean, look at what's happening on the planet, but also whether it's fear in the moment that's blocking us from moving forward or even standing up for ourselves, or this undercurrent of anxiety that may have always been there in our system that just is there, and we may be aware of it, we may not. And the question that was asked was how to conquer our fear. And I'm gonna answer this in a couple different videos, but for now, and I'll probably say something very opposite in the next video, but for now, what I'll say is that it's really important to be able to meet our fear. So if you consider that these different emotions, these different textures, these different sensations in your body are almost like little different parts of yourself that are even very young, and that when they start freaking out, when the anxiety is high, possibly you might have a habit where you kind of try to shut it down, you try to ignore it, you try to numb it, you get mad at it, and that only causes that little being, we gotta just stick with the metaphors, but this being inside of you is not gonna calm down when you get mad at it. It's not gonna be quiet when you numb it out. Like, it's gonna get louder and it's gonna get even more scared. So to be able to have the willingness to feel this part of ourselves is essential. And what I found in my own body is that to be able to feel these sensations in our body, we first have to be in our body. And you'll know you're in your body because you can feel it. I remember when I finally started to be able to see energy, and what was so cool was that I realized that most of the time I was seeing just a head, and that the rest of the body was like this very light hologram. The head was really in 3D and the rest was just very translucent. And that when someone started to embody themselves, I could see parts of the body just start to get more in form, more in this dimension, more in this reality. It's pretty cool to watch. And all of us oscillate between being in our head and going down in our body and going back up in our head and then maybe going somewhere else. So a simple way to know, am I in my body, is, oh, can I actually feel my body right now? And you can start with any sensation. It's easier and it's preferable to start with down in the feet or somewhere in the legs. And even if it's a minute sensation, focus on that and watch how it expands. And oftentimes we'll focus on the sensations that are gnarly or like not comfortable. And it's gonna be a lot easier to stay with the sensations that are more neutral or pleasurable. So stay with those ones. And once you're able to feel the sensations, I mean, your body speaks to you. That's why I even started doing yoga and meditation, was I felt these sparkling sensations and I was like, this is really cool. I'm just gonna hang out with this. Yeah, we'll do some asana, but you know what? My breath and feeling these sensations, that's some real magic. So that's first just checking, am I in my body? Because oftentimes we're not in our body and then we're trying to function in reality and we're like, why does everything seem really scary? So that's the other thing, is that if you're noticing that you tend to be anxious, the question I would ask is, are you grounded? Are you actually in your body? Again, if you're a walking head, it's like things can pass in and out of your body wherever you are, and you have actually no anchor point. So I make a rule for myself, because I can get crazy quite quickly, is before I make any choices or even assess things, like, am I in my body? That's my first assessment. Before I assess reality and react, am I in my body right now? Am I grounded? Because that also will create a safety. And and I'll talk about this in other videos, but when I think about grounding and first chakra, it's actually more about, do I actually feel safe in my body, and do I feel safe on this planet, and do I even want to be here? And that will be a whole other dialogue. But when we're talking about meeting these undercurrents of anxiety and fear, it's really going into like, do I actually feel safe? So another helpful thing to play with is just choosing when you're navigating your choices. Like, are you feeling safe? Does this feel safe to you? Does it calm you down? Like, I think if I'm gonna whenever I'm doing something crazy, whether it's like flying on the trapeze or canyoning and jumping off of rocks into water or surfing, I'm not just taking a risk for the fuck of it. I'm also making sure that there is some true stability and safety so that I actually am gonna pull off what I'm gonna do. The final piece to this is in terms of this anxiety and fear. Once you're actually in your body, once you're actually feeling your sensations, and once you actually feel safe enough, like you've, in a way, like your present reality, you have some stability happening. Because a lot of us, if there's been anxiety, we won't even realize that what our normal is recreating the patterns of chaos, and that just becomes our normal. I know that I was surrounded by a lot of drug addicts when I was a kid, and so my normal became just hanging out with people who were off their head all the time, and you never knew what they were gonna do and what they were gonna say, and whether they would just black out or freak out on you or try to make out with you. Like, everything was possible. And so my normal for a long time was chaotic people. So it became very interesting once I created a normal calm in my reality with the activities I chose for myself, the people I hung out with, the spaces I engaged in, and that the more stable I felt, then I could start to digest those old fear patterns, because I was no longer fighting these current fear chaos. Like, that was out of the equation. I felt safe. So then finally I was ready to meet this other anxiety. And I'll do this in another video. I know I keep referring to these other magical videos that will appear, I promise. But in simple terms is that when we can start to be with the sensations in our body, and it's important that we don't put a story on it, like, oh yeah, this sensation is that thing that happened at that point. Because we're multidimensional, and we are a lot of times processing, quite frankly, not just our own experience that we could remember, but I'm amazed by how many experiences we've had coming out of the womb and being in the womb imprints us. Also our ancestral DNA. So a lot of times it's like, we might be digesting something that happened 7 generations ago that actually is still influencing us, but it's that old. So it's really important to not try to go from like a linear logical place. Our intelligence is way more expansive than that anyway. So to just feel the sensations, take the label out of it. And this is where I think that textures and colors are so great, because if you make it a more artistic experience, then it's like, oh, what's the texture of this? What's the temperature of this? You know, maybe I feel colors, or maybe there's just different metaphors that are rising, and I'm just gonna watch it like a movie. And that's the other important thing, is that you're not just the person experiencing it and it feels like hell. You get to be the witness of the experience. So there's some safe space there. And I'll admit, I mean, the sensations always end up at some point turning into some like delight or space or power. Like I love now going into my really dark spaces, because I feel I suddenly have like this unleashing of power after. However, I am amazed by, for me, I don't know if it's like this for you or anyone else, but when I'm actually feeling these sensations initially, it can feel like I'm dying. Now, I am a bit of a drama queen, that's one of my archetypes, but it will feel so intense. And so what I had to learn for the first couple of years, like I wasn't gonna ride that wave to the end, was what can I handle? What can I digest? You know, maybe it's just 20 seconds of feeling sensations and then being like, okay, that was enough. I'm gonna I'm gonna start to orient in the room and maybe drink some tea. And if you train with me, we actually do some longer processes with this. And if you stay posted, I'm sure that I'll be posting some as well. See, I keep saying, stay connected. Anyway, have a wonderful day. Sending you some magic from Bali. And know that you can always handle whatever you're given.